Hello, everyone, and welcome to State of the Realm, your week, month, news?
Just podcast.
Just a podcast? Yeah.
Podcast.
Yeah, we haven't done a show in a while. We did a few filler shows, talk about games around E3, but for the month of July, we've got a few special things going on over on Twitch. So we're doing a couple of bonus shows while we still wait for Spoilercast, which is still on hold until Ethis is situated. He has had to take a short break, but when he is back, we will be doing State of the Realm, Spoilercast, and Air Zivia. But for now, we're going to be doing a show kind of just catching up on expansion expectations. There's a lot of guests that we've had on the show in the past that we haven't heard from about what they expect and what they're hoping for and how they felt about the news. We'll also be talking about podcasts in general because we're actually on the front page of Twitch for Podcast Month for this show on July 4th. So with that, I'm one of your hosts, Mr. Happy. Of course, joining me, my belated birthday pal, my boy Blue Sly. How you doing? It's your birthday yesterday. How you doing?
Doing really awesome. Really awesome.
Is that hungover awesome, or is that...
Funny enough, I didn't have a lot to drink yesterday. Yesterday I made a really good meal. I call it the James Brown diet. It was like off my usual diet. It was just some collard greens, some crab, macaroni and cheese, and some fried catfish. The James Brown diet. You should try it. And then,
rhymes.
we had the birthday celebration, made a few special drinks and whatnot. Didn't really drink a lot, so even still, it was a good birthday. It was really awesome turnout. Thanks to everyone who came by. We had an awesome time last night.
Excellent. Well, glad you're not distraught for this show, because I know that if it was my birthday and I was partying, I wouldn't be here today. So I would be my day off. And we also have a guest for this show because we're talking about podcasts. We figured, why not bring on someone who runs one of the highest prestige podcasts in the Final Fantasy XIV community, even though he would never admit it himself because he's a bit too humble for that.
No. That laugh,
Frosty.
Jesus.
It's such a stupid show. Come on, man. Mog talk.
I'm almost died. Everyone else likes it, even if you don't.
Glad people like it. I'm glad people like it. I've been doing it for so long now. It's just, I look at other people's podcasts and shows, and I'm like, man, I'm just barely making it by. I'm just like, how do I even do this? Why do people watch this show?
Yeah, the only one you really tune into and you feel better is like you tune into this one and you're like, okay, never mind, I understand. I'm doing.
Oh yeah, it makes me feel better. Like every once in a while, I'll come in and be like, oh, they're doing a show this time. Oh, let me check out and see what it's about. Oh yeah, no, cool. I'm doing fine. It's the same thing like when you read a really good book, you read a book that people say a lot of good things about.
Okay.
And you start the first few chapters and you're like, man, I could probably write a book.
I've thought that before. I actually know what you're talking about. Sly, we should all write books.
Weren't we talking about writing a book?
You're talking about me writing a book specifically the last time.
Yeah, Burn and I were talking about you writing a book, The Pursuit of Happiness. That's what it would be called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you find that entertaining, Frosty.
Yeah. That is funny.
Might be some copyright issues with the name.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
All right.
I would actually write a book. I would write a high fantasy sword and sorcery book.
I'm looking forward to when you publish it. You've heard it here announced first. The exclusive. Frosty's writing a book. He's now committed to it, and he can't take it back. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be the same thing. Like if your kid brought you something, you're like, this is good. That's the kind of
you lie about it till they're older. You mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you lie about it. No, not when they're older. You're like, oh, for a 4-year-old, that was good. You put that on there afterwards.
Okay.
You make it okay.
All right, Frosty.
But.
All right. So you're on our show, Frosty.
I forgot. I already forgot. I'm already thinking maybe I'm like, hey, so today we're talking. No, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's your show.
So today we are going to be, first of all, catching up with you because we haven't had you on the show in quite some time. I went back and double checked way before all the expansion news and everything. And you're actually someone who we reference a lot when we're talking about expansion expectations and whatnot.
EVP.
And that too, obviously.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Okay.
We've been meaning to get you and Burn on a show together so you can like make Burn perpetually smoke the entire show. Because that's his thing.
Okay.
Every time every time we mention PvP, he pulls out a cig and he just starts smoking. So if you were there, he would go through a pack the entire show.
Frosty versus Burn. That sounds like
It's not versus. He's just gonna witness you.
Not versus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just there
I'd
for moral support.
I'd love to. I'd love to meet the guy.
I would like to introduce you to, but I like to say, Frosty, when it comes to the expansion, out of all of us, you have the most to gain.
Do I?
Yeah.
Oh, because the Paladin?
No, but yes.
Okay.
Now.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
because PvP. But anyway.
Oh, that is true. No, yeah, PvP is...
The fact that wasn't your first answer now makes me believe I've been wrong this whole time. So.
Well, I've forgotten about it almost as much as Square Enix has. So,
All right. So,
go ahead.
So there's going to be a live letter this coming Friday. They're doing the 14-hour broadcast, one they've delayed a lot because of the events of the past year. And part of that is going to be a 6.0 digest. The other part of it is bringing on the guest developers for the near raids. So, I figure we could do something quite similar. We haven't done a show in over a month, so people are probably expecting new news, but we probably won't be getting it until August at this rate, probably around the time of the game's next anniversary, unless you have any sort of surprise expectations, but we could talk about that before leading up to the live letter a little bit later in the show. So first off, Frosty, as much as I said that you're a guest on our show, that means that you have guest privileges, and you get to talk about everything first. And as such,
crap.
We don't know anything about what you feel about the expansion.
Dude, so, you know, it's funny. This is probably the most excited I've been for an expansion ever. I don't know why, but this expansion... Oh, okay, maybe I do know why.
Let's explore that.
When Final Fantasy came out, horrible, right? First 1.0, bad. And then they were like, hey, let's destroy the game and make the first expansion. And we're going to make it, this is the game. 2.0 is the game. It's not really expansion. It's the new game. And so that was really the best expansion, I would have to say. And then we went forward. Heavensward was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Stormblood, you know, people have some mixed opinions. It was pretty good, but undoubtedly, people say Shadowbringers was an amazing expansion, right? No one says it was a bad expansion. No one says anything bad about it. I mean, some people might start saying stuff about raiding and when we start to get to fine details of things, but overall, it was really good. Even with raiding, I loved it from my own standpoint. I have so high expectations for what's going forward because of who's writing the story and what's going to be involved going forward. A new healer is exciting. They're making Paladin the main job, right? And I've been Paladin when it wasn't cool, right? And so it would be really cool to see that. And then I feel like I have so much confidence in what they're going to do with raiding. There's new PvP stuff, which may be a good thing for PvP. We don't know. It could be horrible and flop, but there's a chance there's something after 2 years of nothing for PvP. There's a chance of something positive happening for it. And so there's so much for me to look forward to with this expansion. I've never taken off days for an expansion. I've just treated it like, hey, I'll get to it when I can. I'm probably going to take off days work for this expansion. So,
well, if there's one to take off for, the one where you are probably most prone to being spoiled is probably the best one to make that decision for. And I think that's a driving factor for a lot of people. You mentioned who's writing it. Of course, we have Ishikawa-san, who wrote the Shadowbringers story. She's been involved in a lot of other favorites, like the Dark Knight story, going back to Heavensward as well. So her being at the helm gives a lot of people high expectations. We also know there's 30% more voiced cutscenes, more cutscenes in general, but specifically voiced cutscenes as well, which is, after you play through A Realm Reborn and Heavensward again, you realize you really appreciate those.
I want more, not just those cutscenes, but like in-game battle voices.
Exactly.
Because it really brings that stuff to life. When we start first feeling that, I think that was in Stormblood, when Grinwald, you're fighting him, and he's morphed into this crazy chainsaw monster thing, and you hear that voice and his struggle. It felt so good. I love that character forever because of that fight. So, and that's an opinion no one else shares, but I do love that fight a lot, and that character. But when we're talking about other things too, the raiding, we have stuff we care about. We care about what that raid's going to look like, right? La Brea, and that whole, like, whatever that's going to turn into.
I care about a lot of things, Frosty, but I'd say this is definitely on the list of things.
Shadowbringers, they announced a near raid. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't care. But because I didn't play near at that time, right?
You don't need to explain it. Trust me, we've beaten this.
No.
We have beaten this point home for years. You do not need to explain yourself.
Well, to add on to this, the 24 man looks like something I want to play. I want to learn about what's going on in that because it's talking about the 12. There's so much with this expansion that looks good and should be good that I'm seriously hyped more for this again than any other expansion.
All right, fair.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a while since Sly and I have gotten to talk on this topic. So, Sly, you've had a bit of time to mull over from the last show, from all the announcements that we've had. Anything that's changed for you? Anything you looked at and really need to know more about before you form an opinion? Or is there anything that's kind of stewed and now you really need it? You need it now.
I don't think anything really has changed per se. I mean, the 24 man is definitely interesting for me because we kind of, like, Moose and I had talked about it, and Ethis and I had talked about it a bit, like, at the time. And the idea of going around seeing the mysteries that we haven't solved around Eorzea and, like, relating to the 12 is definitely interesting for me. Of course, Pandemonium, I'm still pretty hype about that.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know how they're gonna, like, which way they're gonna go with Pandemonium and everything. Other than that, yeah, like, the normal amount of, expansion excitement. We just want it. We just want all the things. Just give it to us now, please and thank you.
And November is quite a ways away. Probably the biggest struggle with the whole thing.
Well,
November's a struggle in itself.
So the interesting part about that for me, it's like, hey, I got like a break, right? I can kind of rest a little bit. And it's going to be so with the world race and everything that's going to happen immediately after the expansion, like 1 month afterwards, it's going to be like really fast and heavy for me. So I'm trying to absorb all of that free time that I can right now until we get there. But the other cool thing about this gap right here is how much attention Final Fantasy XIV is getting in just overall in the world and the communities everywhere. Or people are coming and playing it now, and so there's so much time for people to catch up and be ready for Endwalker. For people who've never touched this game before. So, and we're seeing that, of course, right now. So.
Oh yeah, big time. Definitely seeing it right now. Oh man. For me, actually, it's funny you guys bring up Myths of the Realm. I'm actually in the process of replaying all the expansions prior to Endwalker, starting with Heaven's Ward, mostly so I can gauge how long the free trial would last the average player. I have to add on time to whatever I land on, but I've replayed and I've seen a lot of things that I either forgot about that I feel like should be pretty important coming up soon, or things I want to see return. And among them were the Sky Pirates that we experienced in the Shadows of Mach storyline. And how, in terms of getting around the realm, I wouldn't mind a particular pirate coming back into the fray. And a particular small cat familiar that I feel like has been largely wasted for the past several years with Nat of Ketchi. For me, I actually, for the MSQ, there's one thing that I forgot about that we learned in Alexander that I feel like has to come back into the MSQ. You don't have to do Alexander for it to make sense. But they refer to something called the Arc Anima, which is a membrane they can wrap around beings that prevents them from ether from passing through. Which, given our current predicament, is important, I feel. And Matoya has a hand in making the Arc Animas. So, that was a point that I had completely forgotten about. That had happened. It happens and it's mentioned and they dismiss it so quick. It's like it doesn't work. It's not working because of X plot tool that makes it not work. Right. So
Yeah, no, I don't remember that at all. But I'm horrible with story and lore, so I don't remember any stuff.
That whole spiel about how you can't wait. I'm horrible.
That's why it's so much fun, because I feel like a child with big imagination, and everyone's like jaded, like elderly people who studied and know all this lore and everything. I'm like, no, we could have fantastic, crazy ideas everywhere, and they're like, no, that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'm a bit more grounded in reality than you, it seems. I like context. Yeah. Is how I feel about it. My imagination goes a little bit, but the context matters a lot for that imagination.
True.
Oh, man. You mentioned rating a lot. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. You actually said you looked back on Shadowbringers with fairly fond memories of it. Now, given you speak to a lot of raiders, I'm sure that's not necessarily an opinion that you are always met with agreeance on. But
I feel like it's mixed in a lot of different raiders. Like, some people, they pull positive things and they pull negative things. There's so many things. We just talked about tanks just yesterday. And so things that are popping in front of my head is stuff like, the tank boss movement. That's one of the biggest things that tanks enjoy doing in this game, and we barely get a taste of it. There's a couple fights that put some emphasis on it, and I think Verse overall did fairly decent with it. But there's a lot of fights where they just miss the opportunity completely, and they're like, hey, no, moving the boss is bad, keep it in the middle. And that kind of sucks. And there's things like that, like they're trying to, I guess it's a mix of different developers making the fights. Like, you're not always going to have the same taste or style for every single fight. But I think there's some things that raiders would want it to improve upon, and some things raiders would be like, okay, this is exactly how we need it. I thought Shiva was a great fight. I love Shiva. Yeah, I thought it was E8S was fairly fantastic. I do have my critiques on it. For example, I hate the fact that it became a staple for you to use anti-knockback, and it was such a close cut on those mirrors that if you didn't hit it at the right spot, everyone's pissed off, and everyone's upset. Sorry, everyone's upset.
No, they're pissed off. It is what it is. Right.
Yeah,
I think that's really just a swag strat, honestly. Like,
it is, but it becomes the staple. Yeah, it became standard. Yeah. Arthur's tweeted one singular poll where we did it one week, and there was no going back for a lot of people.
We had to try it, and it became standard. But originally it was a swag strat. Like, oh, look, you can do this. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of how the Party Finder just works. Everything starts off as like you're just kind of getting by, and then swag stuff starts getting popular, and then there's this like huge clash.
Yeah.
That I felt was unnecessary swag for the Party Finder, though.
I felt like it was.
It was
easier. Yeah. That's the problem.
No,
it was easier.
But was it? Because how many runs do you lose to that going wrong? If you
it doesn't matter, because you don't have to remember the other part of the strat. All you got to remember is I clicked this button, right, and that becomes your responsibility. Versus, be in the right position, be knocked here, and then be knocked back. Instead, you're just like, hit the button. It's so simple that you don't have to think. You don't have to feel. Our heads are not huge, right? We have little tiny heads, and we have to just put just little bits of information in there. And if we put too much in there, we're gonna blow up. So the one button is why it became a solution.
That's an explanation. It's gonna blow
per second.
Yeah,
it's gonna blow up. I mean, they blew up in A3S, dude. What do you think? It's just
you're not allowed to talk about that fight around me, because you were there, but you weren't.
I led a casual static through A3S.
I participated in a top 6 placing group of only 6 groups that finished it before weapons came out. I don't want to ever hear about that fight again. You understand? Yeah.
I was on the opposite spectrum, where my stag would have fell apart if we didn't clear it. So
but you saw Manipulator to fall apart, so it's fine.
Well, no, yeah, after we beat A3S, we're done. We beat that tier. That was the last boss. A4 was just like, whatever, it's there. It's a bonus boss.
That's not a bonus. Bonuses are supposed to be good things.
Yeah. Well, we realized it wasn't good enough for us to do.
Bonuses don't have Nisi, so yeah.
That's a quote. I suppose.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Oh,
But no, I think most people, we're seeing what they're doing with raiding, and we have high hopes of what they can do in the future because we do have some cool stuff, and we have Ultimate. So it's going to be Savaged, and 3 months later we have Ultimate. We have things to look forward to in the raiding scene that is, we've been waiting for 9 months. It's such a long time. Okay, so end of December, so it will be almost a year. No, it will be a year. It'll be a year between raids. And so
we had DR
again,
Savage.
another
When was
huge
that? That counts.
What? The Savage?
That was like 6 weeks later, DR Savage.
Oh yeah, I guess so. But I mean, that was one of the. It's DR Savage. We found out you didn't need everyone alive. You got people in there just to be dead bodies because you needed that cap. DR Savage, right?
Huh?
What?
Yeah.
What?
Clear DR Savage. Like people were just looking for people to join in so they can meet the 48.
Yeah, after they started pugging it when people wrote all the guides. Yeah. That didn't
No,
change
even the
raids.
clears.
No, not
Even
for
the clears.
Yeah, maybe
Even the clears. They
desperate
had people who
clears.
had no clue what they were doing.
We weren't looking for bodies. People just sucked. There's a difference.
Like when it's disorganized, yeah, you're not looking just for bodies. You want people who know what they're doing, and if they happen to die, they die. But they're not just looking for bodies. Like
Yeah, we weren't looking for dead bodies. They just died more than we wanted them to.
They brought people in that didn't know what they were doing, so they could have 48 people.
I'll
They could've
tell you,
built-
as one of the groups that did it first, what you've said isn't true, but it felt that way.
It was. Anyways, yeah, no, it's one of those things where it was a fun thing, but it wasn't a raid. It wasn't a raid.
It was,
There's
trust
just so
me,
many-
I was there. It was a raid.
Okay.
Frosty, you were kind of upset. I remember that you didn't cover it as a world first race, but you're like, "There's no way I could have known."
Sort of.
You were
man.
like,
It
"There's
was
no
too
way."
rude.
I thought it was gonna be like BA, and it was, whatever.
I was hoping.
Yeah.
I was hoping it would be like immediately cleared and done, but then it was like I wake up and it's not clear. It's like, well, let me just program my site real quick and put up a spreadsheet for that.
There you go. Oh man. So
anyway,
we're talking a lot about rating, and I think we should all go around because one of the big things here is expectations for the expansion are high, as you've stated, and that's not just about the content and the story like you've mentioned. It's about the jobs. Now, everyone's going to be waiting probably until about October before we see anything job related. It's a long wait. I know people are impatient because you want to see the fancy new tools. You want to know about the changes. You want to at least catch a glimpse, a sentence, especially summoners right now who are desperately clinging to one statement made about why we don't have Iciglam right now. So, I think it would be nice if each of us went through and see something you want to change. Doesn't have to be about the role you play, the job you play, but something you absolutely want to see change going into raiding and going into high-end content specifically. Something that would affect that skill cap of players going into the expansion.
Can I cheat real quick? Because I already gave my opinion yesterday on this for Paladin.
That's
I
perfect. You didn't give it on this show. Doesn't count.
So I 100% hope Paladin gets a clemency on OGCD, and that's one of the biggest changes they could probably make because it would be support. You could heal yourself, heal anyone, because you have the mana in your rotation to use a clemency. You just don't have the GCD to do it. So I'm hoping that they finally put that on an OGCD so you can just weave that in to wherever you need to. And then Paladin would feel more like Paladin because they throw out a heal every burst. But that's one thing for me.
See, I was even just thinking Clemency shouldn't break combo. At the very least, that's
well,
the
that
bare...
break combo and OGCD.
Well, I mean, if it's OGCD, it won't break combo. But I mean, my bare minimum was not break combo. That's just obnoxious.
No, it shouldn't be. You shouldn't be punished for using that at all. There should be no punishment. It should be just like one of those things you could use to help the party. It shouldn't
like Nason.
ever be like, oh, your
Nason's
DPS
for
is
warrior.
good.
When you give somebody Nason on warrior, you're healing them. And it's not costing you anything.
Yeah. So that's the thing. As long as you can use support abilities on a paladin and not have it cost you for the rest, like your damage that you're doing and your defense, it doesn't cost you anywhere else. It's just like, hey, I have this extra toolkit where I can help in various parts and use it. I mean, I know people don't use Divine Veil. I know people don't use Intervention. I know people don't use these things. But that's not going to stop them. Bad players. There's so many bad players. I don't know what to tell you. There's just bad players out there. They don't use these abilities. They're like, hey, let me hit as long as I don't die and I'm hitting the boss, I'm succeeding. And that's, those types of players are not going to use it. But if you give that tool to good players, it's going to be a lot more fun.
I'm glad that
there's bad players in this game. You can't deny there's bad players in this game.
No, I can't. That is an indisputable fact. Correct.
It's okay. It's okay. As long as they're enjoying the game.
Healers probably don't like your suggestion. They're like, listen, I really don't cast any heals. You're really just making it so it's even...
Okay, and now for healers, I would just make every single boss do so much damage that they could only heal and they could barely do damage. I'm sure they would love that, right? They would love not doing any damage.
It sounds like they would. It really does.
No matter what, it's going to be like, how close can I cut it to do as much damage and not heal as possible? That's always what the meta for healers turns out to be. It doesn't matter. If you give a lot of tools to other people, they're going to be complaining people aren't using those tools because they have to heal. It will be turning into those situations.
As a dancer with Curing Waltz, let me tell you, when somebody says, dude, that's a free indom, I love it. I'm glad you can quantify me in the name of healer abilities.
I want to talk about Dancer real quick because I recently started going back and leveling up everything. I didn't realize how easy Dancer is.
It's so easy. That's why I picked it.
It's so easy. It's like playing Suzaku, and that's all you're doing. You're just playing. You're doing the color matching, and that's all you're doing the entire time.
That. I just look at the buttons light up. I don't even do that. You're doing color matching.
Well,
I'm not looking. I never look at the job page. Come on.
Fair. But it was so much fun. It's so relaxing to play that job because I don't have to worry about I don't have to worry about anything. I'm just like press my buttons and run around, and that's it. Be close to the boss every once in a while, and you're good. So they don't need to change anything about Dancer.
I disagree, but I'll get to that in a second.
Sure.
I very heavily disagree. Sly, you and I have a history when it comes to talking about this topic because you happen to play a job that gets a lot of love when it needs it, and then some, and then some, and then some.
Oh, shut up. Like your job hadn't gotten that treatment.
My job
before.
got fixed, and Dancer got ignored because it was easy to play the whole expansion. So this expansion, I didn't get that privilege like you normally do. That being said, you do probably have some wishes and desires for Dragoon or changes you'd like to see. Now, you don't have to pick Dragoon as the things you want to see changed, but I have a feeling that's where you're going to go.
Well, one thing in terms of Dragoon, I wish the Star Diver animation was fucking faster.
That's the number one thing I've heard Dragoons say in all. That's number one or number two. I know what number two can be.
Because you run, like, every time you use it, you run the risk of just clipping. And it's like, it's so fucking slow. It's like, I'm constantly fucking mashing buttons to move on to my next shit. Like,
Sly, Sly, what did I say before the show started, as a reminder?
Sorry. Apologies, Twitch. That's just how mad I am for it. Okay. But yeah, in terms of that's really the only thing I can think of in terms of the job. Now, we've talked about this in terms of the actual raid a while back, and I don't really think a lot of raids did this in Shadowbringers. It was more of a Stormblood thing where the raids have cycles. Like, you see either one part of the fight, or you see the other one first, and then it's
that's chaos. Yeah, that sounds like chaos. That's 09.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we've seen anything like that in Shadowbringers, have we? I'm trying to think of.
No, the closest thing we have is phases don't necessarily always happen. So a great example is Seed of Sacrifice, where the order of everything in the second phase is not necessarily the same. It also means sometimes you just straight up don't see things, which I guess is always going to happen if you outgear, outperform a fight, especially an extreme trial to like that degree. But yeah, I agree. I still look back on the design of the Chaos fight and how you essentially are taught the whole fight, especially as an introduction raid fight, like as the first fight in a tier. You're basically taught the whole fight in the first 50% over the pulls that you do, and that then carries into knowledge that you can use in the second half. Might make the second half a little underwhelming, but it's certainly, I think, a good teaching and a good teaching experience, a good learning experience too. You feel good about every pull.
Yeah.
I mean, I do agree. I feel like fights should be randomized a little bit more than they are right now. I want to get off the scripted stuff. I mean, and it's one of the reasons why I like PvP is because it doesn't feel like a scripted fight when I go into it. Like I have to kind of
really, because it feels like there's scripted players.
I mean, there are scripted players. You're right. You're not wrong.
Are we
But
going to talk about that?
we don't know. We don't got to dive into that. But the idea is when you go into a fight, I would like it to where I would press buttons depending on what the boss is doing, instead of, hey, I'm pressing these buttons no matter what. And that would be a lot more fun to me.
Right.
So either it's rotating phases like you guys are talking about, or just more. I mean, we saw some of that in E11S, right? But I want it to be a little bit more than just, oh, it's red, oh, it's blue. You know, I want it to be a little bit more advanced than that. It was going in the right direction, just felt a little bit too easy after a while.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there any exchange you would make in terms, because achieving that it's saying it's one thing. In terms of specifically tank involvement, that does change the way that cooldowns and tank swapping and everything is approached quite well. Do you think, would you prefer to see just outright more random stuff, but your cooldowns are kind of more appropriate for it? Or would you prefer to just have it, just kind of the way that it is now, but it just means every different way you see it means you have to know a different rotation for your cooldowns and stuff, I
feel right now we're on a plateau where everyone can kind of get in the Savage and do whatever, and we're okay to start taking the difficulty up a little bit more and just put little things little by little, add a little bit of extra stuff that makes the fights a little bit more difficult. I feel like the skill level, like anyone can approach the content right now, and we've trained our players enough to be able to go forward. You don't think so, Sly?
Damn, Sly, I didn't see you just giving shade over there this whole time.
Yeah, it's just
no, not really giving shade. I mean, that's kind of subjective, honestly. It just depends on the experience, but we
can't lower it anymore.
No. I don't want to lower it. I'm
both party finder a lot, so I'm going to sit back and enjoy this.
I'm actually inclined to agree with you.
Okay.
Honestly,
okay.
I don't agree with the quality of the population, but I'm inclined to agree with you.
The people aren't going to get better. We're always going to, if we even make it easier and easier, people are still going to be coming in and making it hard for people who want to actually try and clear it. That's never going to change. But I feel like the population of people who can clear it right now, that's the level where we could start going ahead and adding in those little extra bits to make it more fun for everybody. We're not going to decrease the number of people who can clear. Because I mean, unless if you're counting the people who just get dragged across the finish line, which there are people like that, but they're going to be dragged across the finish line no matter what, and we don't care. We don't care if they're happy or not. So that's just what it is. I've seen enough to think that we can start. I mean, and again, not huge steps, just one thing here and one thing there, and just make it a little bit more creative and a little bit more challenging.
I forgot how we even got on this tangent. I was asking Sly about Dragoon, and it just.
Yeah, we're talking. Well, he went into the raid fight and talking about chaos and like changing that from everything.
Okay,
else.
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
As he mentioned Stardiver, and then because I was waiting to hear the AOE combo extending the disembowel. Mm-hmm. That's a big one. That's a big one. That's that and Stardiver are the two things I hear the most from Dragoons. I'm surprised Dragoons are only looking at those and not thinking about what are you going to get next expansion that either just got slapped onto the end after Stardiver, or are they going to rework what you're even doing right now, like Blood Life, all that revisited?
And I've talked about this before, the only rework I could think of is I think 95% impossible is for them to actually, throw eyes on the other jumps, which would make it dead easy for you to go into blood. So that's why I think it's impossible. Because just having eyes attached to only one jump is fine. 2, okay, sure, maybe spine shatter, sure. And that would open up you going into Life of the Dragon sooner. But it would really, I feel like it would really throw off the rotation a little bit.
Well, the big thing that I get from, excuse me, from that is it doesn't address something that I think is always kind of on the minds of people when new expansion rolls around with Final Fantasy XIV.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I like to call the breaking point. Where every time they're adding, and even if they're taking some things away, you can only take every job to a certain point before you have to wonder if it's just time to hit a reset button and just literally do a full machinist level like do-over from top to bottom.
We talked about button bloat before.
But it's not just button bloat, it's concept bloat. Like, so for Dragoon, it started with level 50 base rotation. Then they added Blood of the Dragon. Then they added Life of the Dragon. And it's like, you can't just keep stacking things. Like, Red Mage, they stacked Scorch on top of Verflare and Verholy. Eventually something has to give way. And you can't just give them one new thing. You can't just give them Broil 8 or, Glare 2 or what. Or they can't, like Raiden Thrust, they're just like, I don't know, change their first button in their combo when they do it right. Like, like at some point there's a concept bloat.
That's not really bloat. That's a welcome addition, honestly. Sure. If you're good, you get a thing. You get this one button you do on the start of your combo. I'm okay with that. But are you saying we should take something away? I'm
saying do it over. Is there? I'm surprised that you're not thinking of the point where it's critical mass. I'm not asking for it. I'm saying that at some point jobs hit a critical mass where you wonder, what are you gonna just throw on top? Like, what's the big thing that makes me look at this job and go, I can't wait to play this? In the trailer, again for Dragoon, I think Blood of the Dragon, I think Nastrond, I think Stardiver. When we see those in the trailers, we look at Dragoon and we go, awesome. How can they just keep stacking things on top do over and over again?
I got a concept for Dragoon. What if they did it kind of like Dancer, right? All right, and this when I get this kind of mode, something stupid's about to come up. But what if they do a jump, right? And you're in the air, but you have to do the same thing Dancer does, where it has to press the buttons, and then you come back down and do damage. And so it's like you have to do a backflip. Like one of them's backflip, the other one's like aim your spear, and then it's just you press the last one, and then you just zoom down.
Frosty,
and
if you had said they have a button where they can go into the air and then choose their landing location, like while they're in the air, so they get like a little bit of like iframe time.
Sure,
that would be cool. What you just said, no.
What if you jump in the air and then you get like that little, when you're shooting the sheep for the fairies, you get that little aiming thing, but you're like overhead aiming, and then you aim at the boss and you click on it and blow them up.
Yeah, just no Dancer steps.
That's true.
Yeah,
but you could aim.
Yeah,
you could do little
extra buttons. What you just described honestly reminds me of the Monster Hunter jump emote, just with extra buttons. That's all you just described. And on paper, on paper, no. It sounds no, God no. God no, please no.
Yeah, why don't you just do what Astinian does and do 8 clones that all Stardiver individually?
Yeah, there you go. For some reason, Dragoon's clone now. That's part of their lore.
I know people who played Final Fantasy 11 who are still waiting on the Dragon Pet. That's the long time ask.
Why do you want this game
Maybe.
to be so bad?
I don't want it to be. I'm just telling you what I see other people say.
No, a lot of people want this game to be 11 so bad, and we need to.
It's nostalgia, dude. It's just nostalgia.
It really didn't help when they added to the lore that Dragoons used to have wyvern pets.
Really in the trailer, Astinian does kind of have a wyvern pet.
I saw some people say that. They're like, oh, Vritra just his wyvern pet. And I'm like, no, that's much bigger. That's very different.
Don't know, man.
I just look at, they're like, listen, they're getting rid of summoner pets. They're like, it could be like the machinist pet. I feel like,
what is it like? Call Dragon down. Yeah,
you really think Vritra thinks of himself as a pet?
No,
Really?
I'm pretty sure that he thinks of himself as brothers, given Estinian's
Right.
Nidhogg influence. You know.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. It's just when you do call worm, and then Vritra shows up, and then he blasts them in the face, and then he leaves. There you go.
Easy. Done. We fixed Dragoon. We got it for Endwalker. We don't got to worry about it anymore.
I mean, I'm thinking that about not even just Dragoon, though. I think that about most of the jobs. Like, what other jobs are hitting critical mass? I look at Black Mage as a big one. And then, of course, I look at my own job, Dancer, which you said you wouldn't change a thing. And I'm like, I don't agree with that.
Leveling it right now, it seems great. I don't
That's
know.
the
Maybe
thing.
it
You're
gets
not
bad.
level 80. You're not level 80.
Yeah,
yet.
because I'm not 80 yet.
You haven't suffered the disappointment
Gunbreaker's
that is
perfect.
improvisation. Gunbreaker's perfect. I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah. I don't think they could do too much with that. But with Dancer, leveling it so far seems pretty straightforward. I mean, it's so good not to have a dot, man. I don't know what it is. It just feels good not to have to think about a
we're going to
dot.
see a lot of dots next expansion.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of dots again. But we're going to see them as like one button you press every minute, not as...
I can't wait. So, by the way, I keep all the dead actions that they removed on hotbars on jobs I don't use. And so I can't wait to see what I'm going to add to my hotbar graveyard, what they're taking away. How many more question marks I'm going to be able to...
Is it weird I heard that in Yugi's voice?
What is it?
I hear graveyard and I just think... That's it. I just hear it in Yugi's voice. I send this action to the graveyard! There you go.
I've never watched any of that, but I still understand the reference for some reason.
I'm glad you do. I am the youngest one here, after all.
You are. Jeez. Baby happy.
Baby 30-year-old happy.
Well, anyways, I guess that's a good point. What actions? I mean, I shouldn't. Oh, never mind. I don't need to pose questions. It's not my show.
No, ask me a question.
No.
What actions are going to the graveyard?
I'm glad you listened to my command. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. It's your show.
There you go.
Yeah.
What actions hit the graveyard?
Yeah.
All 3 fists from Monk. Fist
of
Earth,
really?
Fist of Fire, Fist of Wind. They need to go. It's so stupid. They're so worthless. You just either forget to turn on Fist of Fire, or you remember to turn on Fist of Fire, or you turn on Fist of Wind in the Crystarium when Sprint wears off. Those gone. Easy. A Notman, I don't even rework it. Just get rid of it. I don't even want them to try and make it work. Just don't even bother. All right?
Okay.
Fluid Aura on... I actually don't think Fluid Aura is ever going anywhere. I think they're never going to get rid of Fluid Aura, Sleep, and Repose. I think those will always be there. I don't think they need to be, but I think they will be.
You want to know what I think for Paladin here? I want Intervention to go to the graveyard. Okay. I want it to go to the graveyard, and I want Cover to come back and be something that we use. Cover has been dead for so long because Intervention is just so much better. Let's just make Cover, again, part of the Paladin skill set and tool set.
I have a question about Cover for you. Would you like Cover better if it was one hit and then it wore off, so you don't get the auto afterwards and you could actually...
I just want to use Cover. I don't care if it did like nothing. I want it to be like, for some reason, it feels so good to use Cover. And I like when you did Hallowed Ground and you did Cover at the same time, you just felt like a champion. But like...
I remember back in the days when Cover got you in trouble.
Yeah, that's great. I love getting in trouble. So like,
oh God.
I love actions that could get you in trouble. It feels it's like risky, right? You have some sort of excitement with that. Intervention, you're like, here you go.
You love half the stuff that just is double-edged in Bajja. That's what it sounds
so
like.
Good.
All that stuff that's like is beneficial but would get you in trouble. Like there's a risk that, hey, this
because that's when skill shines, man. That's when you start to see skill within your abilities and knowing what you're supposed to do when you should do it and getting punished when you don't do the right thing. That's amazing to me. Intervention, you're just like, well, let me just throw it on somebody. It's up now. This is all I use any of my bar for at all is I throw an intervention up every once in a while. But I wanted to go to the grid. Go
all
ahead.
I'm hearing is that Frosty likes to live dangerously. That's all I'm hearing.
I mean, he likes to be on the front lines. We knew he liked to live dangerously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Paladin's got a huge... Of all the jobs, Paladin actually is a huge skill bloat, so I think they actually do kind of need to get rid of intervention.
And again, it's a skill bloat when you have one ability for your gauge that you use.
Yeah, but
You
every
don't
other
use
skill is
any
just
ones.
filling your bar. Your bars are packed.
Yeah,
on
I know.
Paladin.
Anyways, but that's my thoughts for Graveyard for Paladin. I don't know if Dragoon or any other jobs you guys can
I
think.
I can't think of anything to graveyard on Dragoon. Unless they want to graveyard like the backflip, but that would be terrible. Don't graveyard the backflip. I love the backflip.
No, that's movement. No.
They made it an emote, right? Why do you need it?
Piercing yeah, I guess all the ranged attacks are always like we always think about them as I think of Angelus Demoness when I think of
Piercing
ranged
Talon is
attacks. I don't want to
something
take that
to-
from him.
Yeah.
Piercing Talon is something to do when you're not in melee range, and you just want to keep up damage, I guess.
I just think
I mean,
of
you
I think
have
of
to have-
Angelus. I think of Angelus for Palace and Heaven on High solos. I can't imagine
You
what
have
his
to have
life
a
would be
ranged.
like without it.
Mm-hmm.
Every job needs some weak throw
I just
something.
wish it were.
You know?
Oh yeah,
I just
Monk
wish it
needs
were
one.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I wish
Yeah,
it were
Monk could-
better.
You wish it were better? Do you wish it at least didn't break comp? Yeah, at least Samurai's, it's like backflip ranged attack, like gap closer. There's like some reason there. Like it has integration.
Monk should
Like
have
a
like an
range-
energy throw or something. You know, something like
Chi
Street
Blast.
Fighter.
Chi Blast is what most people look for. From Final Fantasy XI,
Yeah.
Chi Blast was the ranged
Okay.
attack. Yeah.
I would think of maybe like a ranged combo that actually keeps up your blood of the dragon. Maybe that'd be kind of beneficial. It wouldn't go to the graveyard; it would just be reworked.
Piercing Talon
Yeah.
under Life of the Dragon.
Well,
becomes
technically
like
it would,
a
'cause they
GCD
would-
and just you fucking throw your
Yeah.
spear through everything.
Yeah, they would get rid of it and then replace it with something else. I mean, I have actions that exist in the game, but they're question marks because there are old actions of it. You know,
Yeah,
the old versions,
yeah.
like Cleric Stance. You know,
Yeah, there's looking at those. I saw someone say Summoner should get rid of Bane and just make Pain Flare do what Bane does as another thing for graveyard. So Bane in the graveyard is a chat request.
okay,
Makes
okay,
sense.
Okay.
You explain it like that. Fixes a little bit of button bloat, keeps the whole dot. And I think they should move further and further away from the whole dot identity. I like the direction Summoner's been moving, so I'm curious to see what they do. So I guess that kind of does the trick, but at the same time, I'll see. I'm very curious about that. Very curious.
Yeah,
Right.
and all the pets they should go in the graveyard too, right?
Yeah.
But
That's coming from
Get rid
someone
of
who wants Puppet Master in this game. I'm like, just make the puppet the weapon. I just get rid of it. The like 15, 20 second pets that like leave, you can keep those. Just get rid of the rest. All right.
yeah. No, I think Summer's gonna. You think they're gonna have that treatment where you turn into like Bahamut or
No.
something instead of actually?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
The only thing I could see is your actions are just all the pet equip. Like you summon Ifrit for like one action, and it's like, you know, I don't know,
All your
like
actions change.
Yeah, like claw swipe, and then like he comes out and does that, and then he disappears. It's like just a quick flash of
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's all I got. I know people who are hoping the cat from the from the Black Mage artwork are like, oh, does that mean Black Mage is getting pets?
Maybe. Hey, maybe.
Lulu
Cats have done
had
a
her
lot for this
puppets.
game, man.
There you go.
Yeah.
Don't do this.
Yeah.
Don't do this.
Yeah.
Dancer. I still didn't get to talk about my dancer changes this whole
Yeah.
time.
Talk about it.
Improv sucks. Improv is the dumbest thing that dancers have. It's gauge when channeled, and the gauge depends on how many people are in improv. If it's any less than 7 party members and yourself, it gives less than 10 gauge. That's dumb. That means in 4-player parties, it's worth 6. In a dungeon, it's worth 6. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Now,
That's pretty
Haps,
dumb.
I will throw out that this is a new job.
Shut up.
At least give it one more expansion
No.
before you want to really get rid of it.
No, they had
No, I
up
don't
2
want to
years.
get rid of it. I want them to fix it. Why does it need to? Dude, you got that one party member who can't fucking sit still. Excuse me for my language now. Now I'm upset.
You're ruining everything.
I'm upset because you get that one party member who likes to do this in between like bosses, like being targetable, and then they jump out of it.
That reminds me, this is completely not related and completely a derail of what you're talking about.
Thanks.
But it reminds me, have you guys done the Gold Saucer airship challenge with the Gold Saucer?
Yes.
Have you guys done that at all? All right.
Yes,
So when you do it, you either get perfect, or if you miss one, you can just hit everything. It doesn't matter anymore. It's like an all or nothing. You get like the most points possible if you hit it perfectly. But if you miss one thing, then it's just, if you hit every single bad objective, you get the exact same points as if you hit one bad objective. It's so ridiculously, like, it's Square Enix wants you to be perfect or it doesn't care about you. And that reminded me about Dancer. So I think that we need to fix that. I'm with you. Fix that and then do airship, because I'm so.
You know, bro,
I'm angry.
I would be completely content if they just made me push my dance buttons during improv and I generated esprit every time I like put in like I complete an input. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care if they just made me play DDR the whole time. Just stop making me get. I'm tired of having 47 esprit at like some time, because you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna let it fill to 100 so it becomes an even number again. I'm not gonna just use it when it hits the minimum what I need. I need it to be an even. So now I have to overcap to fix their problem.
True. Okay.
By the way, someone in chat, can somebody make a gif of Happy? What that dance was? Happy looked like he was swag surfing or something.
It's like what is that? What was that? Like an owl or like some bird or something? That I'm trying to remember what the gif was, where the bird is like doing this back and forth. I can't remember what it was. It's like a party bird.
A party bird? Is
party bird Happy.
I'm a party bird?
Party bird.
I know rare parrot.
Yeah. There was one where it was bouncing back and forth. I can't remember what it was. But that's what I remembered. Yeah, but you're doing that with your whole body. But yeah.
So gifable, so gifable.
There's a gif of me somewhere doing this. I remember it from Final Fantasy 12. I remember that. There's a gif of me somewhere doing that. Oh, man.
Why?
I was dancing.
So,
the Final Fantasy 12 Cactuars do that when they're standing still. They go.
Really?
Yeah, they do this weird dance. I don't know why. Oh, man.
So from this discussion, we've kind of come to the conclusion that each of us are pissed off about something. Really?
Oh, you know, so I want to make it super clear, too.
Okay.
Square Enix and their jobs, they do so well.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, it's good. It's really good. But people like us who play this game way more than the average player, I would assume, we find these little bits and details and stuff of things that we would think would be better. We always will find improvements. They could have like the most perfect jobs, whatever. I mean, Gunbreaker apparently not. Right? It's great, but like
literally perfect.
It could be perfect. Yeah,
it's not.
We will always find something that we would want to change. Final Fantasy, and I was talking about this with some other people. When you go to other MMOs and everything else, and you come back, I mean, really, it's pretty solid in comparison to what it could be. So I love it. I would always want more, though. I'm sorry. I'm hungry, and I just want better all the time. I just want to devour better, and so I'm going to keep trying to push better criticism off to other people, even if I love it. So please don't take what all this stuff that I'm saying, because that made me feel so crappy. It made me feel so crappy. When I did that interview with Yoshida.
Yep, I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
I felt so bad. I felt so bad when he said, "Hey, you guys are a little rough. Could you not be so rough?" And in the end, man, I really love this game, and we all love this game. Just what we talk about always will end up to be things that we wish to see change. But
yeah, the big thing is,
promise, Yoshi, I'm trying.
I like to say that as an end game player, we like to make mountains out of molehills, because the game is pretty closely balanced to the point where every small difference is like a mountain next to an actual molehill looks pretty massive. So a molehill next to nothing also looks pretty massive.
Yeah.
AKA, we're nitpicky as hell.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's basically a thing to discuss
Yeah.
for sake of
Yeah.
discussion, and not this is terrible, you can't do it. I don't know why anyone would ever do it. You're wasting my time if you do this.
Yeah. And so anyone who's like hasn't played this game and they're listening to this right now, the game's pretty damn good with its jobs.
Yeah.
We're talking about, after doing it so many times, things that we'd like. But yeah.
Yeah, because there's still just abilities that, just like we said, just they don't make sense, or they either need to be changed, improved.
We'd be okay
whatever.
with them. Yeah.
They hit like a 95% good ability ratio, and then there's like those like one or two that always you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I will say, this may be the time that I start the expansion off as Sage and not as Paladin. So
Explain.
Please.
So doing Party Finder, and this entire expansion I've been doing Party Finder with Paladin, and I've been I've always love hate. I tried Astro for a little while, and I was like, man, this is so much fun. It's painful, right? It's painful, but you could be so much more reactive with a healer in Party Finder than you would with any job anywhere at any time. Healing in Party Finder, you have to react to those situations that you have no clue what's going to happen. You don't have no clue how bad these players are going to be, how good they're going to be, how much you can optimize your DPS, how much you need to not worry about that and just keep the party alive and keep the progression going. And I feel like that was so much fun to do that I actually want to try going through Endwalker as a healer and just experience that. I'll play like Paladin as well throughout it, but I think I'm going to try maining and starting this first tier off with just Sage. Let's see how that goes.
You know, I kind of get that. I play healer in everything that isn't like Pug Savage and like Ultimate. Because if I was to learn it, I'd rather learn it more structured, I suppose. I don't mind doing it. Like, I have Pug Savage as healer before, but I'm always like, yeah, I'm in a bit more PowerPoint, but I'd rather play it something I feel more proficient at, so that specific role is more comfortable. So, like, for example, if I'm not, like, if I get a bad healer or whatever, but if we keep failing DPS checks, I'm going to know, like, that's my main motive. I just,
But that's something you could do, too.
Yeah.
The better you get with healer, the more DPS you could do while keeping the party
If there's
alive.
anything I've learned, that being the healer that does more damage only works about 60% of the time, because as soon as other people start screwing up, it messes with you a lot.
Yeah, it does. It does. But it's so much to try to figure out, and so you have such an effect on the party overall for the progression. And I feel like it's just a lot of fun with people you don't know. With Paladin and with DPS in general, you're like, I do this, 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 and this every single time. Healer, I need to go in here, and when they mess up, how can I keep the ball rolling? That's fun to me. I don't know. And with seeing the new, I think that hopefully Reaper has inspired enough people to play Reaper instead of Sage. That healer
I'll be
queues will
leveling
still be
Reaper
maybe
to
okay.
70 and doing the MSQ on it within the first few hours.
Okay.
I won't be maining
trying
it, but I will be doing the story on Reaper at the very least. Yeah, I'm surprised that you're so interested, because healer is a whole discussion in and of itself when it comes to the expansion. Because people are wondering what's going to happen to Astro. People are wondering if Scholar's going to get any changes. You know, just how similar does White Mage end up looking? Is it still Glare? Are they going to give him Cleric stance back? Like, there's all sorts of directions that discussion goes. So I'm interested in you wanting to jump into that train in particular.
It's going to be more structured heals and shields. That's all it is. With regens and shields and all that stuff, and trying to like make that balance out, because they're stopping the fight of, hey, it doesn't matter. You don't need shields and regen. That's not how we want to define them completely. But yeah, they're like, well, no, we give up. Two shields, two regens, and that's
exactly
it. And I'm like, okay. You know what? I'm fine. I'm happy they finally came to the conclusion of it's not worth going and doing that anymore, and just accepting for what it is.
But it's interesting, because when you ask seasoned healers, they do not share what you just said and what you were probably about to say. No, and I think
they didn't. They're not happy they gave up.
No.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I've had some healers tell me they're okay with it too, but other ones, they wish they would have done this a long time ago and not tried to do this where it doesn't really matter situation. But it's always been that way. Astro, it's man, I don't want to get into too much of that conversation because I feel like I couldn't speak on it as well as other healers could because I'm not really a healer at the moment. But I feel like Astro has one of the most eventful job life experiences throughout the entire game. It has had so many ups, downs, and changes to where, especially Heavensward, oh my god, Heavensward Astro was like, that was an experience,
remember
man. It came out and
remember
everyone was
20%
like,
balance? Remember 20%
Yeah.
balance?
And they turned it into like, oh, you have to have Astro. And now Astro is like the one that you'd bring if you want a solo heal, right? And so it's like, it's so crazy how Astro really turned out. But I do, and then they changed their cards. That has to be like the most painful. I don't know, because there's a lot of people who kind of were iffy about that too, because you're just using one card anyways.
I have my opinions on that, and Sly knows it. Sly and I have dividing opinions on the Astro cards.
Do you remember when we saw that at the media tour? It's just
I sure do.
like what? I don't even know how to really respond to that then. But I feel like Astro is going to get to this point where it's just going to become like the next white mage, and that's okay.
That's
I'm
what
fine
I thought,
with it.
too,
Whatever.
pretty much.
Yeah. But for me personally, as someone who isn't really a person who's played healer ever at all, but just sat on the sidelines with it, I'm happy with them just going to something that they can focus on, and that is super straightforward and doesn't make it overly complicated for no reason at all.
Sly, you seem to be dissenting from this discussion right now, based on your facial expressions. Would you like to? Would you like to speak your mind?
This is another topic like we've beaten into the ground, I feel.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. We don't have to go into it.
No,
it's fine.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Back in my day, when Astro first came out, and it had all these neat little cards that did all these cool things, and it was utility and it was fun. Meanwhile, at the Legion of Doom, all the raiders are like, well, there's only one card. Can we just have that card more often? You know what? Just that card. We just want that card. And it got rid of all the fun little utility and everything that made it what it was. And then now all of a sudden, you know what? One day it's just gonna Astro is gonna be a white mage, and it's just gonna have just one card. It's not even gonna have cards. It's just card. It's like a tarot reader with like one death card, and it just goes by saying
that's the only card they want.
Yeah, you're gonna die.
That's the worst card to have kept.
That's the worst card to keep. Yeah, exactly.
It's
but it's
the
like
opposite of the balance.
The identity of the job. I feel like the identity of the job has strayed far from what it originally was. And this is one thing, like, during FanFest, this is one thing I tweeted. I'm like, Yoshi P needs to kind of put his foot down more. I really wish he would. I mean, there are times when there's stuff we really want, and I'm glad that they listen to our feedback. And there are times when there's stuff we really want and is merited, but there are times when it's kind of distinct, like a difference of opinions. And it's like, okay, is this really necessary, or are you just going to do this just because, they want this meta, and, they just want one card to just do really awesome stuff. Like, no, Yoshi, put your foot down. Like, really put your foot down. You don't have to listen to everything we say. We're crazy.
We're insane
over there. Yeah.
Sly, remember what I always say. There's the balance, there's the worst balance, there's the worst balance, and then there's three other cards.
I mean, all they needed to do is, because it was such, well, maybe not, maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but just make the one that's pure damage up be the weakest of the ones statistically, and make it to where, like, you have to kind of figure out the other ones and where they could go and actually understand the jobs a little bit more, where you could put them in the place where it would be strongest, and leave the damage up. Be like, it's not bad, but it's not like really great. If you don't
honestly,
know
I think you guys, if you really want your card diversity back, you're going about it the whole wrong way. You literally, here's what you do: no damage up cards, only divination. Every other card is a utility.
No. But then everybody would.
I don't care.
Like,
you want your card diversity back. You want your card diversity back. That's what it's going to cost you.
That's currently like honors. What was the first thing you said about honors? Well, I only see one good honor right here.
And the HP one is moderately acceptable.
Exactly. That's all. That's all it is. And you take away. Okay, you take away that one honor. Everybody's like, why am I doing honors now? I mean, I guess I really shouldn't be here then. That's all that would happen if you took away. All
right. Here's what I'll give you for Astro. Here's what's coming out of my brain. All right. Here's what you do. We're gonna go back to another. We're gonna go back to an old card system. All right. That's it. I'm giving you that. You got one that restores MP. We can't have any damage related ones. So what else do you want?
Okay.
You got MP. What else do you want? You got the bull. What else do you want? You're done. Okay. Play those two. You're good. All right. We're done. Because what else are you gonna do at this point? There's no TP to be had. Max HP? Maybe you get a max HP one. There you go. Thrill a battle on a card. How about that? 5% max HP while we're at it. What else do we got? Come on. What else?
Well, any kind of healing stuff that you do. Any kind of healing stuff that you do, because the fights are so scripted that like you already know what the heals go where, and so any heal or like support bonus things like that. It's just like, oh, well, this is extra I don't need. I guess I'll throw it up. And it doesn't matter. And so I don't think that, like, support, even though that's probably a good route to go, is not going to be the best route. Just because it does nothing. Everything's mapped out.
Exactly.
But if fights were more random and you had to be more reactive to stuff, maybe not. Maybe that would be a different situation. But it's not that way at the moment.
I'm telling you, if you want those cards diverse, I don't know what diversity you want anymore because I'm ruling out attack speed, critical hit damage because those are not going to be the best cards. So you got.
What if all the cards go into the graveyard? What if they just
they just get rid of cards? Hey, make them a time mage. I'm okay with that. Go back to time mage Astro, like we had before.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Give up the decks. We don't leave things to chance. Yeah. That's the quote from.
So I gotta go.
Okay.
Mulligan.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Mulligan.
No, go ahead.
I'll give you this. Maybe 3 offensive cards and 3 defensive cards. How about that? I'll give you one that reduces enemy damage, like physical damage, magic damage. So you'll have Feint, Addle, and I don't Trick. No, you can't have Trick.
It's just the nature of it, man. It's really just the nature of it.
No trick cards. Yeah. That's a bad idea. I take it back.
No. It's just the nature of it. If you make stuff that's random, it's just all extra because people aren't going to pick them. Yeah. I don't know. Is there more job stuff that you guys want to throw out? Because I don't feel skilled enough in the other jobs to like throw out a good opinion.
I think we kind of touched on most of the stuff we really wanted or things we wanted to see changed for the expansion.
So well, I mean, there's one more thing before we talk about podcasts. And Frosty, I think you can summarize this pretty quick.
Okay.
PvP. There has to be a specific want. There has to be no. There has to be something very particular because you've enjoyed PvP in 14, despite how hard we've tried to make you not.
Yeah, PvP is so all right when everything's in the right setup. It's so enjoyable, right? It's so great because I feel like what you do there. And when I'm talking about PvP, I'm so sorry. I'm not talking about front lines. I'm talking about.
I know. No one ever is.
Yeah, front lines and all that stuff. To me, it's just that big extra thing on the end. And people are probably mad at me for saying that. People, especially who do it a lot.
Well, actually, before you go any further, don't you think that improving that helps to drive interest into the part that you want to see the most changes in?
I don't know. I don't know what that can really do because when I go into front lines, I feel like I don't matter.
Exactly.
I feel like
isn't that a problem they could address
pointless.
in theory?
I don't know because there's so many people, right? That's just the problem with. Yeah, so small scale PvP. But I mean, I don't know what small scale PvP. From what the response I got from Yoshida is, it's going to be somewhere probably between like Feast or just a little bit bigger. Is what the small scale.
It sounded
is.
like 8v8 Feast is what it sounded like to me.
Possibly 8v8 is where it could go, but I mean, he did say it was near the same line as Feast, so that makes me think that maybe it's not going to be 8v8. So it's either 8v8 or I don't know what else he could do besides 8v8. I mean, 4v4, but that feels like it. I mean, maybe. It would be interesting to capture the flag 8v8 would be great.
Yep.
I would love it. I think that's something that would do really great in this game. But I don't think about front lines like large scale stuff as PvP anymore, even though it is. And that's where a lot of people go to do PvP. Because when I get into a match, I want to feel like my actions did something. And I feel that a lot with Feast. This expansion, clearly, if anyone has tried PvP, it merely existed. That's it. There's nothing. They've done some changes, some balance changes, and they've kind of worked on some things, but it was pretty much, hey, Feast is there. You can do it if you want to. It's like Chocobo Racing. It exists. But they didn't do anything with it. So
hey, but you did. Remember that.
I did.
Yeah, you did.
You cheated. I haven't gotten a rail into you for that, have I?
Go ahead, do it.
No, we're not getting there yet. We have the podcast section as soon as you're done.
Sure. So, okay. So I guess your question is, with PvP, what changes do I want to see? Is that what you're...
Yeah, I mean, there has to be like one major want, like, because you've enjoyed it enough as it is. So clearly, while there's like things you change on a small scale, there's also clearly something you would want to change on a larger scale.
On a large scale, I guess this would be the large scale one.
Yeah.
Is I would have, and this could apply to other things. It's not just PvP, but it's really important with PvP. Is that they have someone that is the Square Enix representative for PvP communicating with everyone. And like they go with monthly talks, monthly forum posts, monthly. They're like, "Hey, I hear you. This is our response." And it sucks because you can't really some of those things that people are upset with. They're not things that you could really respond to very well because in a business sense or whatever else. But if they had someone just responsible, "Hey, PvP is my job. I'm going to make sure it's as good as possible for everybody," and they were interfacing with the public, that would be wonderful. That would be my large scale thing. If they did have PvE too with raiding and everything, I think that would be fantastic too. But for like small scale maps that aren't the same map, that's it. If they could do more than just the Crystal Tower map,
I never liked that.
Fantastic.
I was a much bigger fan when we had the two separate. When they introduced the second one, I was like, it's so wasteful for them.
Lycanweed and Feasting Ground. We have 3 maps. It's not completely balanced for like the modes or anything, but just throw it out there for fun. Who cares anymore? You're not doing anything with Feast, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Well,
if
they
it's
won't
like
be doing anything with Feast right at the beginning of Endwalker either.
Yeah, they're putting it on a pause, and I think that's absolutely the right direction if they're going to go somewhere serious with the small scale PvP that they're doing. Is to put a pause on Feast, and if it goes well, just let it fade to memory and go with this new one. Whatever they're doing with the new small scale stuff. And hopefully that will be fantastic. And, data center, cross data center queues would be so great.
Man, let me tell you what's not going to happen.
That would be so good, though.
Let me tell you what's
queues would pop.
Let me tell you what's not going to happen.
They got to do it. They got it. NA region, EU region, JP region.
Frosty, I'm going to blow your mind, but...
Sure.
But the way data centers are done, your region doesn't matter. They're not connected at all. Any capacity.
I know, but they do. They're working on something. They're building connections right now, right? For data center travel.
Yeah, that's for travel. That's picking your data up and putting it someplace else, not queuing.
Maybe you can play together. Maybe you could do it.
Frosty, of all the restrictions I actually think is going to be in place for data center travel, it's very specifically going to be that PvP is disabled when you visit another data center.
Maybe. Unless if they just make it cross queues and just they I want to see it in the same.
I'm not saying I don't want to see it. I'm telling you what won't happen.
Okay.
You're going to need another expansion for that.
We'll see, man. I have trust. trust that they'll break reality.
I can't wait when those JP players, when I'm the host and the JP players' abilities don't work.
No. So it's region. So it's like all the babies, all the ones that are in.
Not full all the way.
Region. No.
When this happens in 8.0, Frosty will bring you back on for you to
and
tell
not
us
a
that
moment
right.
sooner.
Right.
You won't see me for another 4 or 5 years, guys. 6 years.
Or ever.
Anyways, but yeah, no, that's it. I mean, if they could figure out some way to make the queues happen all the time, that would fix it. And I mean, part of that is making the content something that people are happy doing, and it's going to come to more moderation overall for the mode, and people actually going in there and having a team of people investigating the issues that might be going on. Because it's not huge, but it's enough to be there and to make people not want to play. I mean, that's all it is.
Oh. Right.
We can go more into that, but it gets pretty deep.
We've got a few months before we might want to just do a PvP show at some point with the guests that you normally bring on.
Yeah, well, I have so many good guests for PvP.
Know you do.
But that being said, I do think there is a chance the live letter will talk about it.
I don't think there's a chance at all. I think this live letter literally tells us nothing new.
They said at the during FanFest, hey, small scales PvP is coming. Just give us a little bit of time and we'll talk about it. A little bit of time's happened.
No,
live letter's coming.
August is a little bit of time.
I mean, that's a lot of bit of time.
No, November is a lot of bit of time.
We'll
all
see.
I'm saying is it says they're just going over stuff we already know, and then they're asking. They're doing a Q&A about the near range.
It doesn't say that they're already going over stuff.
You want me to read? I'll read it to you verbatim, so that way you
do it. Read it to me.
So the first post says it's the 6.0 digest. That's what the first post says, but that's not the post I'm referring to. The second post says, and I quote, the 65th installment of the Letter from the Producer Live will review recently announced information for Endwalker. In the latter half of the show, we will be joined by guest creators Yosuke Saito and Yoko Taro to look back on Your Hot Dark Apocalypse, as well as answer questions from the official forums.
There's a chance. Just saying, there's a chance.
I'll give you that. There is a chance.
Yeah,
because the review doesn't mean not add anything.
Right. There's absolutely a chance that we'll be seeing that. So we'll see. We'll see for sure. Yeah. If not, then I won't do a show this week.
We are. I made sure I had a show that wasn't the live letter as a topic for this weekend.
Okay. Good.
That was my plan. But please be live, Frosty. Anyway.
Okay.
That's my only ask. Okay, so speaking of which, that's a good transition. So I mentioned it at the start of the show, but Frosty is a guest we have on occasionally because he actually runs his own podcast in the Final Fantasy XIV space. There are dozens, if I'm not mistaken, of Final Fantasy podcasts, but one that has garnished a lot of respect from mass members of the community is Mog Talk, which is Frosty's. The amount of effort that goes into it, the amount of stuff that he organizes event-wise and guest-wise, and the most he just lets people who know better than him talk instead of him, which people really like, instead of the hosts talking.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So I think that's the one interesting thing about my show is that I tried to have co-hosts, and that flopped hard as shit.
I remember.
Sorry. Yeah, it didn't work out at all. And so it became just me bringing on other people, and that's what Mog Talk evolved into. And so that's why it is what it is. And I appreciate the kind things you said. It reminds me, I don't think much about Mog Talk in general because I don't feel like I do enough for it to be too respectable. But someone told me the other day, someone said something positive somewhere, and then someone followed up. It was like, you put too much value in someone who makes a spreadsheet and does a talk show. And I'm like, he's right. That's all it is. It's a spreadsheet and a talk show. I can't argue with that.
But it's the fact that what you do, like, outside of, like, the work you do, it seems simple. But from the standpoint that we're in, and, like, we do the same thing. We run a podcast, so we know what goes on behind the scenes. And then there's some stuff you do that we don't even do. And
as someone
like,
who runs
look at an intro.
We don't do a lot. Let me tell you that.
But I see things like the anniversary events that you do. There's no way in hell, like Heck, the last time we tried to do, what was it, the event, him and Ethis were delirious. I actually got sleep before the podcast, and I was...
I got sleep before the podcast, too.
I remember that you guys were doing that, and you were just like, trucking along.
I was awake. They were just like, can we just go to sleep? But you do a whole day. You do a whole day of worth of shows in one day. And that in and of itself, I mean, I honestly applaud you for it. Like, again, the work you do and then doing something, taking on a production of that magnitude.
We will never host a 14-hour show that has 14 one-hour shows. Let me promise you that right now. And so, that's something you did.
To be fair, like when you're doing that, having so many different energized guests every hour kind of helps keep you going because they come on with all that energy and you kind of can feed off of that and survive. But I do love doing that. I'm going to be honest, when I do these kind of larger scale events, I feel like an idiot. Because I'm like, why did I even say I do this? Why?
Yeah, I call you an idiot too, to be fair. So that's like, I'm like, why is he? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's a really good idea, and it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard at the same time.
And that's how it goes with every event I do. Is with the world race or with like the Chocobo thing that we did recently. I'm like, why did I say I do this? It doesn't make any sense because this is so much work. It's so much work because like when I do it, for example, the Chocobo race, they approached the Butterfinger and the Extra Life. They approached me and I'm like, why are you approaching me to do this? I am not even worth doing any of this stuff. But I had the conversation with him. I was like, you know what? It sounds cool. And the worst thing is that it was the day before I flew out to Hawaii for the vacation I did. So it was like all that stuff was smashing together at the tail end. And I just started a new job. So I have all that new job stuff going on the last day. I was supposed to, I worked that day. I just took those few hours off to do the race.
To harass us. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And so I decided to do that. And I was like, man, it would be, what can I do besides just do a normal stream, because I don't ever stream? What can I do that would be worthwhile for these guys? Because they came to me, and I feel kind of honored they came to me. Again, I don't know why. And so I was like, well, let me try to get an event. And so I just reached out to a whole bunch of people, like Happy and Sly turned me down. What a jerk, absolute
What he just said is a lie.
Oh, is it?
I didn't turn you down.
No, Sly.
Oh, you said Happy and Sly who turned... Okay.
No, Happy.
Yeah,
Happy,
that's
Happy
the truth. How dare you, Sly?
Yeah. But no.
That's a lie.
No, well, I was doing it, and I was like, all right, now the idea is really cool and everything. Now, how do I get it done? Oh, crap. I have to organize time slots. I got to find people to fill these spots. I got to figure out how Chocobo racing works. Okay, I got to
You knew that part already. Don't lie to me.
I knew most. I knew the idea.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
I did have to specifically tell you how queuing worked. So.
Yeah, I needed to make sure queuing worked, right? I needed to make sure that stuff could happen. Then I had to make sure if I was on the right data center, which worked out for the most part, except for Sophie. All right, she was the only one that was on Primal.
Contemplated the whole what server do you play on part of this whole ordeal.
Or data center, yeah. And so
and that's why I wasn't there.
Yeah, that's why, because he couldn't. Yeah. That's all right.
I don't know. I showed up to your birthday party just fine last night.
Because you've been raiding on Primal. Shut up. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I know how much Sly hates Aether, so I wasn't gonna go.
Yeah, that's fair. That's true.
Yeah. But I was, going in and figuring out all this stuff. It all just happens because I have an idea to do it, and then I have to realize I do it. Then somehow it works out in the end. That's how it is. Always just magical. Like it just all somehow comes together and it works. And that I don't know why I do these things. I think the idea is cool, and I try and do my best. And in the end, we have what we had with the Chocobo race event, or what we had with the World Race. Which World Race was, that's that was way too much work. Why would I say it's okay for me to try to manage 40 people to do this charity drive? You know? But it was fun. And I want to say with Mog Talk in general, because we went completely onto the extra stuff, not really podcasting. Sorry.
Well, I mean, this is all of. I mean, to be fair, I think most people associate that with Mog Talk because realistically, that's the content that you produce. You just said it yourself. You don't live stream like normal. Like that's just not a thing.
No.
That isn't a thing. So when you are presenting content, you're essentially it's a Mog Talk presents. It's not a Frosty presents in such a way. If that makes sense.
I mean, and that's kind of what it is, and it's funny because that's kind of what the show is. It's its own thing where it brings on people, and I'm just there as the platform, right? I'm there as like the structure for people to come on and have these discussions, and that's really all it is. I'm not an expert in half the things that the show does. I just have that. Well, see, the thing with State of Realm is it is different in the way that people. I don't think people come to watch Mog Talk for Frosty. They come for State of the Realm for Happy and Sly. And whoever else they bring on.
Damn right.
And they
Sly.
give them... Yeah.
Got it.
100%. The show is... You guys are doing a fantastic job, and people know they could come, and they have two familiar faces they're happy to see every time the show happens. For me, it's like, oh, who's on the show this week? Oh, I don't really. Nah, that's all right. You know, it just depends from week to week. For mine,
But there wouldn't be a show without you. That's the thing. Like you are a part of the show, and yes, you do have guests, and yes, your guests are part of your identity. But at the same time, people have to realize, okay, he's not just going to have a show without him, and then there's the guest, and then they just run the show. He has to be there. He has to do the back end work. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's true. You know, I have to do the back end, and that's kind of what it was with the World Race. I did most of the back end stuff when I did that event in December, and I was there for the beginning, the intro. I did some of the interview stuff, but I let other people kind of do the stuff and just made sure it was managed and put together. And when people couldn't show up, I filled their spot. You know, and so that was what I was doing because I had an idea of how to make that work and the whole master plan of how this all comes together and how to fix issues. Again, all the tech stuff I had to do. Thanks Moogle Troop for helping with that because man, I had no clue how that was going to even work out, and it still had its issues, but it worked out for the most part. I had no clue how big that project was going to be, but with Mog Talk in general, for me, I'm just 100% guest every single time that we do it, and I feel like that's what makes Mog Talk what it is. It's Mog Talk with people coming on the show, and I am lucky that you guys let me come on here. I feel that for sure because you guys are absolutely amazing, and I know for sure without the two of you, State of the Realm wouldn't exist. But I feel like without me, Mog Talk could exist. I've had Very Merry host my show once a really long time ago. I did, and I think he did a good job, but I haven't had anyone host since then. But
so Frosty, here's what needs to happen. We got to do a Mog Talk that is you.
Just me?
Yes.
And that's literally Mog space talk.
Mog Talk. But yeah,
the Mog Talk in this case.
Just every week I come on and I just rant with my stupid ideas.
That's the bit. You do like an 8-minute rant, and that's the Mog Talk.
And I say it. Oh, TM, I got it right now. It's all in my wheelhouse. That's the Mog Talk, guys. Not Stay Frosty. That's the Mog Talk.
That's the Mog Talk. There you go. Somebody said at least for April Fools.
Yeah, April Fools. Right. Yeah, at least for that. But yeah, no. And I think that's the one thing. I don't think there's any other podcast that's doing it. I feel like the other podcasts could easily come in and do it. They just need to do it where they are more 100% guest focused. I mean, and that's the show's always about the guest. And you don't care about the host as much. The host is just kind of there. But,
so like Jimmy Fallon.
They're quiet.
Jimmy Fallon, yeah. He tries so hard, though. He does
try really hard, but it doesn't. It's really no one's there for him.
You never watch that the same way you would watch Conan. Like you would watch Conan and you'd be like, man, I want to see it because Conan's like amazing, and he does great with all his guests and everything else. Jimmy Fallon's like, oh man, Will Smith's on there, and he's gonna do like
No,
some
I'm
rap
sorry.
thing.
Wait, no.
Oh.
Will Smith is on there. Hold on. I have to do it. His fucking laugh where he fucking shrivels up. Excuse my language.
Oh.
Yeah, here he goes.
Front page.
Anyway.
I don't know, but I mean, I guess I don't even know what the question was when we started this. I just started talking.
I asked you about your podcast, and that's what you've been talking
oh,
about for the last 20
Okay.
minutes.
So Mog Talk.
I was gonna like go point to point, but then you started talking. I'm like, this works. Okay.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would like to hear your points. I would like to hear your points because I feel like.
And see, I was gonna say that's another good thing about podcasting is like there's part of it where it's structured, and I feel that's where you shine the most, Frosty, is where you have this structure for all of your shows, and then there's part of it which free flows, and that's pretty much where we've made our home. Like we started out with structure, and then Haps and I were like, oh crap, I didn't do notes this week. I mean, you got something? No. All right, we'll just talk. And
it's a little more complicated than that.
There's a little more to it than that, but that's the way I'm explaining it.
Yeah, I mean there is Mog Talk. What I do is I create a small structure. Like I do that layout every time I have I mean, and you guys used to do layouts a long time ago, I think, right?
I think I did them once, and we realized that swapping between them was like, I don't care.
But I do it, and the main reason I do that is because I bring on. I've had hundreds of guests on Mog Talk, hundreds of guests, and so I don't know. A lot of these people have never been on a podcast. They don't know anything. They're just players that are really good at what they're doing, and they could probably talk really well in what they're doing. They could be streamers. They could be just people who are super amazing, known in the community, but don't really talk much. And so I create this structure so they're like, okay, I have an idea of what to expect when I come on, and just to make them feel more comfortable. Like, people come on without cams all the time because they're more comfortable, and I want them to talk and be comfortable. I don't... it's awesome to get him on cam. I was so happy when I got Moose on cam, man. Secretly, somehow, I deceived him on getting on cam. But I feel like if the people come on and they're more comfortable talking, that's the more important part. Because it's Mog Talk, not Mog Cam, right? I don't. It's not that big of a deal that you come on with a cam or not. I give them crap every single time they don't bring on a cam because they're like, "Oh, I don't have a cam."
Mog Cam is a very, very different kind of service.
It is a different. It's
very different demographic for that.
Well, it got to make money somehow, dude. So, but I mean, in the end, that part of the structure that I create in there is just to make it easy for the amount of guests the different experiences. The people, some people don't even look at the notes. Some people take the notes and they write books about their answers to all these questions, everything else. Whatever makes it comfortable for them coming on the show, it's important to me. But you guys, I feel like you have structure. You just don't do the layout. Yeah. The Mog Talk side of it is like half the time we do the show, we don't even touch the points on the layout. They just exist, so really there's something to talk about.
I can vouch.
The conversation goes wherever it goes, and I feel like it's interesting. I have to reel it in every once in a while. Like, we start talking about our favorite types of coffee and everything. I'm like, man, we've been talking about coffee on a tank show for 20 minutes. Let's reel this back.
Well, I mean, you were trying to stay awake while tanking. It's okay.
Hey, you know what? There's some party finder tanking can be pretty interesting, man. There's a lot of stuff you got to do to make up for the other tank, especially when they don't know how to provoke, and you have to figure out how to provoke and shirk in a way and turn off your tank. That's the only time I have to turn off my tank stance, is when the other tank doesn't know what they're doing, and I have to turn it off to make sure they keep the boss. And so it could be interesting. But yeah, no. Sometimes we get into coffee. All right, you know what? We can start talking about how Happy has his own brand of coffee. Yeah, brown. I was thinking the color brown because of coffee. I was looking at the bottom of my cup because I have no coffee left in there.
Hap's coffee is brown. That is correct.
Yeah.
Is it? I don't know. I'm colorblind. Could be purple.
It could be purple. It could be purple.
I drink purple coffee. Just tell me why it's purple first.
Just like you eat purple ketchup and green ketchup. You remember that?
Actually, I won't. I don't like ketchup that much as it is, so I really won't go near multicolored ketchups. But anyway, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, we long ago. So I'd say for the first probably 100+ episodes, we actually did have an outline. which I think is what you were mean. You kept saying overlay, but I think what you meant to say was outline. Unless you meant,
was I saying overlay? I meant outline.
Yeah. I interpreted an answer as such, but I was like, I think.
So I'm so glad you can make sense of my insanity and
someone has to.
speaks.
So, and we did it for a while, and what a lot of it ended up boiling down to is we were writing things down that were already written down, if that makes sense. So, like, when we want to do a show about a live letter or lore or, like, we kind of, we're just rewriting things that are already written. And so the shows where we need notes are shows potentially like this one, like what topics are we going to talk about for the expansion or whatnot. But everyone has that point they want to get right too with everything. And it's a lot of skimming through things that we felt people just, it was kind of like we had to because it was on topic instead of just getting to the things people wanted to talk about most. So that was a big reason why. I also just didn't want to write notes anymore because of all of those reasons. So it was like sometimes Sly puts together notes with like kind of just that base structure. You know, when he really wants it, he does it. And that's why I tell people Sly works harder on the show than I do, even though I go live on it, because I literally just pick a guest or a topic, or he picks a guest, and that's it. Like that's and honestly, it's kind of nice being able to just do a podcast where it's that's it. That's the trigger. That's it. It's just okay. We're doing it. Done. Yeah,
it feels good. Because I mean, you have to put a limit to how much time you put into certain things. Because you're like, for Mog Talk for sure. Like if I put the more effort I put into it outside in a week, other things get hurt. Like other things in life, other things that I need time for, and I'm like, you know what? I could have played a couple hours of a video game that I desperately needed some time to play a video game. Sometimes I just need to play a video game, and so I don't want to eat into that as much, and so I try to figure out the easiest way to do it. A lot of my setup for Mog Talk, like I get the guests and everything beforehand, and I write the layout sometimes a day or two before the show, and it sucks. I'm going to be honest, sometimes it sucks writing that layout, especially when I have no clue about that topic at all. Like, for example, if
That's
I do
I can vouch on that. When putting together like a healer show for me is like, I have some idea, but I can't.
Yeah.
Almost anything I write down is to let them get to the point that they need to get to, essentially, and not an actual point that they would have brought up anyway.
Yeah, and so it's difficult, especially when you have no clue. Like me, I'm clueless sometimes, and you have to work with that, and you have to say, all right, I don't know what I'm talking about, but how can I still have a conversation that is people will enjoy it? I'm going to be honest too with you. Most people who watch Final Fantasy XIV podcast, they have to play Final Fantasy XIV or it is unenjoyable.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of par for the course, unless someone doesn't play and is trying to learn and pick up lingo and things like that.
It's so bad. I had family and friends watch, and they're like, "I can't watch it. I have no clue what's happening."
I mean, that's my family in every stream. They're like, "You just." My mother called a chocobo a kokomo in my chat the other day because she didn't understand it.
Nice.
And you bring up a good point, Frosty, for today. In fact, we're on front page.
Yeah.
There's probably a good percentage of people who have never played Final Fantasy XIV. Hopefully you will. Hopefully we'll get you into it. There's a free trial that you can play up to level 60
of the critically acclaimed.
Haven't heard about that.
Yeah.
Haven't heard about that.
Yeah, the critically acclaimed Final Fantasy XIV. So there you go. So if you want to learn about all the stuff we're talking about, there you go. But yeah, like we always run into this point where we may hit outside of our core audience, and today is one of those days. Next week will be one of those days. I think we'll have a little bit of cross representation next week.
Yeah,
but there's always the chance you run of getting someone who's never seen Final Fantasy XIV, and then because of the podcast, it draws interest, and they're like, well, I want to learn more about this critically acclaimed game, so let me give it a shot. So yeah, I feel like most podcasts within the scope of Final Fantasy XIV do a really good job of drawing interest, no matter what the conversation might be. they were talking about raids, or heck, you may be talking about PvP, or I don't know, chocobo racing to do it. But
hey man, people are wondering why we race birds.
Yeah, why we race Kokomos, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
So
and
I think go ahead.
I don't know. I was just gonna say that, like, I think my show in particular, Mog Talk, doesn't draw interest from new players. I feel like all the conversations we have is so high level. Most not because of me, but a lot of the conversations turn into kind of high level conversations, and it's so hard to like spend time translating that down, because then that takes up a lot of the show as well. And so you have to like do this balance. Do I want to make a show for people who want to talk about Final Fantasy at this high level, or do I want to talk about a show that's constantly introducing new players? And maybe right now it's a really good time to be doing podcasts that introduce new players to the game.
It's the perfect time. There's really not much to do. I mean, this is the perfect time for anyone to get in and get ready for Endwalker. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and so I think maybe that's something I need to change personally right now on my future shows, at least going forward, is try to have some more base level conversations that people can come in and relate a little bit more. Just if they've played an MMO at all or understand video games, that would be my base level, instead of having to be in game. Level 80 Final Fantasy.
Sly.
But I feel like there are a lot of topics that that we cover in game that could bring people in. Introductory topics like housing or decoration, housing, nightlife.
We've done that, yeah. Not nightlife. I need to do nightlife. I'm going to be bringing Sly on for nightlife.
We've done one. Yeah, I'm just coming to the realization that the nightlife scene is so much bigger than what I know.
It's huge. DJs everywhere.
Yep. But yeah, there are so many small topics within the game that are, I feel like you say base level topics that could get anyone involved. And like, hey, okay, this seems interesting. I could definitely get into this. And because there are a lot of people who just play for housing, or play for crafting, or again, it's a theme park MMO. There's something for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. This Final Fantasy is the biggest theme park of all MMOs that I can think of. Even WoW, I would say there's just so much for so many different types of players, and we're not one hive mind. It's this world and universe that a lot of people come into, and they find their own little niche that they are enjoying, and they stay there, and they're happy. Like PvP players, they enjoy their little area, even though it doesn't have tons and tons of people in it. It's still a community that people are happy to be in. Some tastes they're a little bit more happier than others, but I'm happy you were saying something. Yeah, you that's true. You Mr. Happy, but you were saying something a second ago, but you didn't get it. I feel like we interrupted you.
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
Okay.
Well, no, Sly brought up that some of your topics hit home pretty much when it comes to even people who don't necessarily play. And I think there's a weird divide that you can walk, because you can totally make podcasts that are super Final Fantasy 14 centric. This is true of all podcasts. You can make a podcast that's any topic centric, but there's going to be some overlap that people understand. And specifically with a lot of 14 podcasts, the overlap is other people who play MMOs. In general, there might be terms they don't understand, like Grand Company, Free Company. They may not know what an Alphano is, and why it's so annoying at times, but they can pick up on a lot of base things. They understand that we're talking about a story. They understand that we're talking about combat. They understand we're talking about a feature. And it's just a matter of learning the naming conventions and whatnot. So,
I mean, and that's one of the big issues, is that we get caught in these naming conventions that we know and we understand. Like Free Companies, that does not translate anywhere. You say Free Companies, and it's Final Fantasy 14. Yeah,
dude, I love ordering those.
Yeah, it's a drink. I love Alizé.
What part of the country are you ordering Alizé? No, like, so I think that what the thing is that maybe this is just something I need to work on. It's just finding a way to be translating the stuff better, because I feel like my show has always been like, even when we have housing shows and we discuss that, we talk about pretty high level stuff about in the housing community, and working with how to make the items placed in a separate way and how they do that and everything else. within the house and making these crazy environments. And then we will always get into jargon that just doesn't translate. So I don't know what the fix is, to be completely honest, because if you do it too base level as well, then it feels like you're just, I don't know, pandering. Or
That's
you're
the exact word
like,
that was on my brain.
yeah.
I was waiting to see if you got to it.
Yeah. You're just, a lot of your audience that is currently watching it is like getting bored or turned off by the fact that you just keep oversimplifying everything for other people, and you're spending half the show doing that. So I don't know.
No, I understand what you're saying with that. Yeah.
Now, speaking of that, because one thing we didn't touch, because you, Frosty, actually got a guest that I was trying to get. I tried to get HGXIV. I tried to get HGXIV because before they went on their hiatus, and then you got him. I'm like,
Yeah.
One thing, and one thing we deal with within the podcasting realm of 14 is guests. The fact that this community is so, I wouldn't call it small, but it's so tight knit that you are probably going to see a lot of the same people on a bunch of different shows.
Yeah, for sure.
So how do you go through that? What's your mindset when you?
As soon as they're on your show, I'm like, screw it. They're not.
Dude, I've done the
show.
same thing. I've 100% done the exact same thing. I go, they're on Live Talk, cool. Hey, you want to do a show?
No. Well, so what's funny is that I was planning a show with Alex Mukala, right? And I was going like, hey, we're gonna do that. And then the week before, you guys had a Husky and him on the show.
I remember you having this conversation.
But I didn't care. But it was funny because it was at the exact same time. And he's like, oh, you should get Husky too. And you're like, yeah, I should get Husky too. And so we got Husky on there. And I've had such a great relationship with those two since then too. I was in Husky's video. I was playing on my guitar that I barely know how to play on. Yeah. And so I love those two. They're amazing. And we've had them for the World Race. We had them come in and do a segment as a donation incentive, and it was pretty awesome. Both of those, man, they're off to really great things, I think, going forward into the future. But yeah, no, if I see them on another show, I'm like, it would be a good idea, maybe to get them on too and just discuss about it. Sometimes I don't like to completely overlap. If I see that a show's happening over there, I'm like, could let it cool down. But I don't know if I think that far into it, to be honest with you. I don't really go too crazy.
I don't.
Yeah.
Because I'll even say, Mog Talk just talked about this, go watch it. That's what I'll do. I'll just literally start pointing people to other... Because sometimes a podcast ends and a topic's beaten into the dust, but the people still want more discussion. It's like a point that wasn't brought up, or maybe it's too echo chamber, like the hosts all agree too much on a topic. And there's any number of things that can lead to just the same show from a lot of different sources being a great thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's perfectly fine to do that too. And I don't know. I feel like we've been doing the podcast about the same length of time. I've had longer spurts of not doing it than you guys have, I'm pretty sure. But in the long, we're old, man. We've been here for so long. We're like the ancient people now.
I'm young. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, man. Back in the day, we're welcoming new people in, and the people who we welcome in are welcoming new people in right now. And so, it's like we've just been here for so long, and we've done this for just ages. It feels like, and it's pretty awesome to see what it's evolved to. We've seen people kind of leave the scene too, and kind of go do their. I still miss Milo. Like every day, I miss Milo.
Keep in
but
touch.
he's doing his thing. He's doing his thing. And then there's a lot of ups and downs and changes that happen. How long has it been now?
For what?
For me, I've been doing Mog Talk for about 6 years, I think.
We've been doing Mog Talk since the January after the first North American Fan Festival, so that would have been 2014, so it would have been January 2015.
Chuckbo Racing.
I almost pulled a clip from that for this show. I came very close.
Oh, really?
I came very close, and then I realized I won't put you through this.
I don't care. I don't care. I'm happy with my embarrassments that I've had in the past.
I'm happy.
And yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. I get every time, man. I just
love
want to say that word.
I've ruined that word for so many people, and it's great.
I just want to say that word and have it part of the conversation without it being referred to Mr.
Can't even go to McDonald's anymore.
Yeah.
That's it.
But yeah, no, it's been so long, and it's been crazy to see how I don't know how I got to this point, but it's been crazy to see the community evolve to where it is now. And there's so many people doing podcasts now. There's so many different cool people out there talking about different topics, and it's worth checking them all out, especially if you want to hear just people. That's why I made Mog Talk. It's because I had FanFest go 2014. I went there, and I had such a great time just listening to people talk about Final Fantasy, and I was like, God,
man,
I just want to keep
story
doing
sure
it.
sounds familiar.
Gee, I'm happy. I wonder. That
Literally,
sounds
Sly and I
really-
met at a fan fest, and that's what.
Oh, you guys met there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't meet anyone there. I did. I mean, I did meet some people from Reddit there, but they weren't like people that life changing. I knew forever, really. There's some people for sure I still talk to, but they weren't part of Mog Talk going forward. But yeah, that's all it was. I started Mog Talk because I wanted to talk to people about Final Fantasy 14, and one of my guild members came on and we talked.
And that's all that ever really is with podcasts.
Company.
Nobody makes a podcast expecting anyone to watch it or listen to it.
Yeah.
You just do it because you need an outlet. That's how I felt at the very least.
Yeah.
And
now I'm so lucky. I have this outlet where I can go talk to all these cool people. It's all for me, man. I get to talk to all these cool people. I don't care. I get to have these awesome conversations.
I don't care about any of you. This is for me.
Yeah.
This is my show.
But yeah, no. So I was asking about your points, Happy. Did I hit all your points?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay. Because I didn't think or plan anything that I was going to say on this show. I just figured
that's how we run.
Yeah.
We don't really do that either.
Yeah. But I mean, I love doing it. I hope I can keep doing it for a while. It's the only thing that I really do in Final Fantasy 14 community content creation right now is Mog Talk, and the various little events that go on. Although I probably need to chill out for a bit.
You've got some time to chill out. That's for certain. You've got till Endwalker. Any specific plans leading up to?
There's a couple of things that are coming up, but I don't think that I'm gonna dive completely into them. There's stuff that we could do. We could do the Olympics.
I really want. I would forego being in it if it means if I could help run it.
Yeah. We will do it. I just we got to figure out the right time to do it. Right.
Yeah, not along with the actual Olympics. We'll tell you that much. That's too close. They won't be ready in time for that.
I don't. Yeah, no, not the actual Olympics, but no, it would be before the expansion's released at some point, or it would be sometime after Ultimate.
Yeah, 6.1 plus.
Yeah. Because I think that was fun.
Why don't we
that
make
whole
Ultimate
event.
one of the Olympic objectives.
Yeah. That's part
medal.
of it. The world first. Oh my goodness.
Gold medal, baby. Yeah, because you're gonna split the Olympics up into North America, Europe, Japan. So you just make the world first part of.
I don't know if I could do anything. That's the most difficult thing about the world race and everything is the communication with the JP community.
Yeah,
because
it's just not the same. Yeah.
I mean, I've had shows, and that's some of the most. I wouldn't ever do this without Mog Talk. Is I get someone to come on and translate stuff these really skilled Japanese players and translating that conversation and having a back and forth with them. I would have never done that without Mog Talk, and I feel like that's amazing. I feel like I've reached out so much more globally than I was way before in 2014 in my own little bubble in America. So I love this game, and the show gives me that outlet.
And this show too sometimes when we actually invite you on.
Oh yeah, sometimes yeah.
Sometimes when we invite. The last time we had you on was podcast highlight month.
Was it?
Yeah. But I feel like we have great discussions when it comes to just talking about the podcasts and not doing a podcasts, if that makes sense.
Because it feels like more like we're out at dinner and we're just talking about the stuff we do. That's what it feels like.
That's how I love those conversations. Those are the best conversations. I always want to go out and eat dinner. Like when we have these media events, just have dinner with friends. And I saw Sly. I was like, let's go get a beer, dude. At the media
I was like,
store.
I'm going to get some food. I'm going to get some Japanese. You want some?
Yeah. I just love it. It feels good. And it's like having a fan fest every time I do a show, or I sit down. I mean, it's not the same level, but I mean, you have those conversations, and that's what I wanted. So I've succeeded in that mode. And besides, we didn't even talk about like the insanity which led up to doing stage events at the other fan fest. I can successfully say, and I feel good about this, is that my face has been at every fan fest since 2018 North America.
And I can confidently say that Team Heidelin whooped your butt at the most recent one.
They did! They destroyed us! But you know what? I had fun. I had so much fun.
Who the hell are we kidding? Both of y'all did terrible.
It's true. We both did really, really horrible.
They told They told me to not be too hesitant to call on Moose. It's not my fault. He got one wrong. Okay.
First question.
They told us to not be reserved with it. And we already knew.
I didn't even get to use all of we couldn't even use all of our calls.
Yeah, and then we knew we were doing the G post thing, so we thought we might lose the second one.
Again, because this is pre-recorded, but you couldn't see my reaction to Happy, and I'm like, this question. All right, Happy, don't be a bitch. Happy, don't be a bitch. I think I'm gonna call.
They told us to call.
You gonna be a bitch.
They told us.
You gonna be a bitch, Happy.
They
Come on, man.
told us. They told us to call them because we only had 4 questions, so don't be hesitant. So I called him. I was going to call him no matter what the question was. And I needed him anyway, so that helped.
Terrible.
Terrible. That was a great event. I was so happy.
I didn't make the joke that time. You did it.
I hear it in my head. It's just there. Like you're just like existing as a little person in my head saying, "That's me."
And that's how I'll live forever, like the Joker.
Gosh. Yeah. Well, I was very content with that event. I liked it. I thought it went really well, and I had fun doing it, even though we got crushed. I mean, it could have turned out so much differently, and it was so funny. It came down. It would have been horrible for us to win at the end, but we would have won if Larry got the answer wrong.
Xenos, yay. What did he say? Gaius Van Galvis? Yeah, that was.
Yeah, I didn't know the answer.
I did.
But I knew Ethis did, and I had an ability
Alex knew the
to
answer
still call
too,
it.
and I'm pretty sure. I thought Alex was up next. Alex was like, I know the answer.
He might have been, yeah.
I think Alex was up next, and he's like, I know it. Oh.
All that representation, and the only primal representation was Anonymous as a phone a friend. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's all right.
You got one wrong. It's fine. Got one wrong.
He did.
That's it.
That's okay. I got one wrong too. I got one because it was the only question I had. I never got asked another question.
That's fair.
I mean, I think that we'll see more of that, and hopefully, that inspires me. And there is some really cool community events happening. I think within now in the span of the next 5 months or so.
Yes, there are quite a few.
Yeah, like the lunar one that
LunarCon.
you're with. Yeah, LunarCon.
Yeah.
So
Got some good stuff.
the community is going to have a great. It feels like a big celebration going to Endwalker. You can either rest or you can have fun with all these little events and everything else. But Final Fantasy's doing real good right now. Holy crud!
Oh yeah, I feel that.
You feel that?
I feel that.
You feel that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm glad you feel it.
Sure do. This brain, mush.
Yeah, it's been amazing seeing and you guys deserve all the support, by the way. And Appy, you deserve all the support. Sly, you deserve all the support. Any support that can be given in any way towards both of you, because you're such a big, huge staple of the Final Fantasy XIV community. Like, I can't even imagine Final Fantasy XIV community without the two of you in it, to be honest with you.
Same.
I can't imagine it.
I meant same to you.
Oh, no.
I meant same to you, not same for us.
If you weren't here, it's
same. Yeah, I know. Same.
Yeah.
Mostly
yeah,
because
it's
I
a
don't know
huge
what I'd be
inspiration.
doing otherwise. Yeah, there you go.
But I mean, so I'm glad you guys are here. I'm glad you guys are still here, and I'm looking forward to how Endwalker turns out for all of us. I feel like I just said a closing statement. I don't know if I should.
I was about to lead into closing statement, so that's a good transition.
Yeah.
Good talk about the
Yeah.
podcast. Good talk about our
Yeah.
our expansion expectations. God, that's a tongue twister right there. Short one, but a tongue twister nonetheless. But it's always good to have a talk, especially when there isn't a whole lot in terms of news to discuss with Final Fantasy 14 at the moment, and I'm not too confident we'll have any after this Friday. Really not thinking we will. We'll do a Make It Rain show next,
so.
Sly. How about
I
that?
hope so.
We'll do a Gold Saucer show next when the Make It Rain event comes. There we go. That's a little.
Oh,
Hey, I'll be there, man. Hey, man, I'll be.
Those are my last 2 triple triad cards. I need 800,000 MGP, and I'm done. So I'm looking
y'all are on
forward
the
to
drugs.
it. Stop it. All right. So anyway, that's going to be a wrap for this show, this very impromptu show for State of the Realm. I asked Frosty a few days ago, like, hey, we got a front page time. You want to do a show real quick? And he's like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I want that attention. Give me that front page attention. Yeah.
And because it's talk show and podcast related thing, I felt like that was a good person to bring on the show.
Oh, thanks.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
At least you didn't try to tell me I made the wrong decision the whole time, which sounds like a you
Did.
thing.
Definitely sounds like a Frosty
That
thing.
sounds like a Frosty
yeah,
thing.
you-
Yeah. I don't know why you bothered.
I don't know why you brought me on here, man.
Why am I here? I don't know why I exist.
Why? Shut up. Anyway,
Why
that's
am I
gonna be a wrap for this episode of Stay the Realm. Our next episode is going to be one that has been requested very heavily. We're going to be bringing the discussion of this isn't a versus, Sly. You called it a versus earlier. It is a WoW X Final Fantasy 14 perspective show, and I'll be bringing on
Man, is this relevant?
a dear friend of mine who has never been on a show before with us, Towley. My fellow
Hello,
Jersey
Towley.
boy. My fellow Jersey boy is going to be joining us for that show. And he has a moderate amount of experience in both Final Fantasy 14 and WoW. Obviously, he plays WoW more than anything else. But
Right.
he has involved himself in other games. He's played Blade and Souls, Star Wars, he was getting excited about the other day. There was some news for the Old Republic.
And he's actually been to a fan fest before.
Yeah. I was going to say
Hey,
that.
he's-
Yeah.
He's been to FanFest. He's played 14. He's gone through the expansion stories. So, hammers up for our guest next Saturday, or
Yeah.
this coming Saturday, July 10th, is when that show is going to be. So, I'm looking forward to that one because I haven't seen him in like well over a year, almost 2 years at this point. Since one of his birthdays, I think. We went to Vegas. That's the last time I
Nice.
went anywhere, I think, with everything that's happened. That was in 2019.
Oh, so long ago.
So long ago, you can say that again. So that's going to be our next
That's a
show.
whole pandemic.
Yep, yeah, the whole thing. That's it's
Yeah.
not over yet. Anyway, so with that, thank you everyone for joining us for this episode of Stay of the Realm. Of course, Frosty, thank you for taking your time out of your July 4th of all days in order to join us for this.
Middle of the day, it's fine. There's no fireworks going on.
Not yet, at least. So why don't you tell everyone where they can find you at, as if they didn't already get the point from the entire back half of the show.
Oh, okay. Well, if you guys want to deal with my content at all, we do Saturday Mog Talks.
Deal with.
Yeah,
Deal
where we
with.
bring on
Tolerate.
put up with.
God.
Mog Talk is mostly every Saturday, depending on some weekends we don't have it, depending on life and everything else. But that's 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Frosty_TV.
It's in the Twitch
That's the
chat.
Twitch name for it. Oh yeah, it's in Twitch chat. Okay,
There
cool.
it is.
Yeah,
Grindy
awesome.
posted.
Thank you, Grindy. But you could do that, or you could follow. There's 2 Twitter accounts you can follow. Frosty TV Stream is one Twitter account. That's mine that I post on it. Then there's one dedicated just to Mog Talk, which is Mog Talk Tweets, and you can follow that. And you can get all the information you ever need about Mog Talk and stuff that I do, whether it's an event or something else. I don't think that I'm going to have another event until the World Race after Endwalker, but we'll see. We don't know. Maybe not. And have to re-emphasize, thank you guys so much for having me on, because you guys are absolutely a blast to talk to. Whether it's on a podcast or just going out to dinner and hanging out, it's always fun.
You keep saying going out to dinner, and I have my anniversary dinner tonight, and you're making me really hungry.
What are you getting? What kind of food you getting?
I'm going to get a 16-ounce ribeye and some truffle fries.
That sounds good. Sounds really good right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, you guys are fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sly, my friend, my co-host, my birthday boy.
Yes.
Why don't you tell everyone what you're working on, where they can find you at, what you got coming down the pipeline?
You can find me at twitch.tv/Sly, aka Gray Fox. You can find me on Twitter at Sly the Fox. This week, well, I was supposed to take tomorrow off because, this weekend is crazy and everything. The weekend's been crazy. But, my mod wanted to get me into Valheim, so I'll be playing Valheim with my mod on Monday. Tuesday, I'm probably taking off because I need to, because the weekend's been crazy. But later this week, Monster Hunter Stories 2, because that comes out this week. We got a few other things down the pipeline. Just had the birthday party last night for, myself on WSOY. So, more WSOY stuff coming down the pipeline. And, I'd love to have you. I'll probably be on after this for a Merc Day tradition that I have.
Barbecue?
Merc.
Yeah. Oh, so when are you guys going to do the Monster Hunter podcast?
That's a good question. Happy. When are we doing that?
I don't know, host. When are we doing it?
Why am I the host?
Because you know more about
I mean,
it.
Sly, you are the host. You should be the host for that. Yeah.
Oh God, no!
Sly needs to host the Resident Evil podcast, the Monster Hunter podcast, and the SMT podcast.
SMT, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's
I believe in you, dude.
Because Sly kind of skirted over something. He does a lot of nightlife related stuff, so you can catch him on his channel either at the Allure Lounge on certain Fridays, or most Fridays, I would say, or his WSLY. Wow, that's really hard for me to say. You've gotten really good at that. Where he DJs the best. I can't do your spiel. I can't make it sound good. You got to say it. You got to say the whole station WSLY.
Mm-hmm. Making me work today. Station WSLY, grooving you through the 70s and 80s of Japan, coming to you every Saturday night here on twitch.tv/Sly, aka Gray Fox. Next month, August 7th is our next First Saturday. It is the 1-year anniversary of First Saturdays, so I just had my birthday last night. WSLY First Saturdays has its birthday next month. So
smooth. So smooth. It sounds so good.
Better than both of us. That's fine.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Thank you, Sly. Of course. Always
thank you.
Good to finally be able to do a show with you on anything.
And happy, we're working on all these, like they didn't know, working all these people find you. What are you doing? What are you doing with life? What's going on?
You can find me, Mr. Happy1227, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. I don't really use that third one in the middle there at all. I don't remember the last time I went on Facebook because it sucks. So yeah, that's where I am with that. I've been very, very busy with 14, surprisingly. I finished all 17 resistance weapons, so those are all done. I am missing only 2 cards in my triple triad collection other than the tournament winning card, so that I'm going to finish with the Make It Rain event next week. I'm finishing up my Heaven's Ward replay through so I can make some YouTube content on the length of the free trial, the average length of the stories overall, because I will do Stormblood and Shadowbringers, re-experiencing it before Endwalker to refresh myself on certain things, because I feel like that's probably a good idea. And then, on top of all of that, I'm going to be attempting some Heaven on High solos for the first time in goodness knows how long. So, I've kept rather busy in 14 as of late. Yeah, I'm capped on Rays. I'm done with Bozja. Unless I want to make some money, I literally have nothing else to get in there. Other than, I guess, the Raptor mount, and I could buy that. But I made over 100 million gil in Bozja in the last month, so I guess I don't even need to worry about that. Yeah, Bozja's big money. Big money. I know Sly took up some Bozja. I told him it was big money. I saw him in there. He's like, yo, All right. Here we go.
Yeah,
Gotta make some money. Yeah, gotta make that Gil. Got them coffee biscuits and everything. Monster Hunter Stories 2 does come out. I do want to play that. There is a live letter that same day. And also Genshin 1.7 is going to be coming around. For me, that's big because I've been saving for a character since November. And I haven't spent any, I've spent the battle passes are like $10, and then the monthly bonus is like $5. So it's like a monthly sub, I guess I'm paying, like $15 a month. And I have over 100,000 gems saved up for a character, and it'll either be in the first or second half of 1.7. And I'm going to do a whole huge thing on that. So that's going to be a very, very good time. So, got a few things coming down the pipeline that I'm looking forward to. So, follow and you'll see all the content produced on that. And with that, I think we can wrap up this show. And we will be seeing everyone on Saturday. We're going to go into a short post-show, not very long, because as it is Merca Day, I don't want to hold anyone up for too long. But thank you again, gentlemen, for joining today. Good to have you on July 4th. I hope you a decent one, maybe some decent food, and as little firework noise as possible. I will wish for you as well, especially for the two of us that have pets.
Yeah,
cats for me, pups for you. So
I have cats too, but I think they don't care as much.
That is a surprise to me.
Yeah, they're already scared of everything, so it doesn't really change anything. But
fair.
The pups, yeah. We got a thunder shirt we'll put on them, but yeah.
There you go. Anyway, with that. Short post show, and ladies and gentlemen, we will see you on Saturday, July 10th for our WoW X Final Fantasy XIV special. With that, we'll see you then. Until then, take care.
See you next week.